Hi, I'm John, welcome back. This is a movie on AEDs, that's Automated External Defibrillators, not to be confused with the sort of defibrillators that you'll see in the doctor's surgery or the dentist's surgery or that you might see on TV in these hospital dramas that have got lots of complicated knobs and dials, that the doctors are using the big electrodes, they stand clear. It's not those. These are automated external defibrillators. They're designed to be used by anybody with no training, really, or minimal training. You might have seen them on a first aid course if you've done a first aid course recently. And the clue's in the name, really. They're automated and they're external. They're not defibrillators which are inside the body. And automated, they come in two varieties. They're fully automated or semi-automated. And the main difference is that if they're fully automated, really all you need to do is attach the pads. And if they're semi-automated, then there'll be a button that you will need to press as well to deliver the shock. Now you won't be making the decision as to whether a shock is required or not. The device will do that. And they come in lots of different shapes and sizes. I've got a selection out here in front of me just to kind of show you the different types. This is a PowerHeart G3. This is a fully automatic AED. Let's just open that up. Fully automatic because there is no button in here that you need to press, compared to this one here. This is a Medtronic, and this is also fully automatic. You need to turn it on and off, attach the pads, it will do the rest. Compare that with this one. This is a Zoll AED Plus. This one is a semi-automatic. There's a big red heart symbol in the center there with a membrane keypad which you would need to press to deliver the shock when it tells you. And finally, we have one here. This is a Philips. Again, these are all popular models. Whoops. This is a heart start. And we've got a set of pads there. Let's carefully extract those pads without damaging them. There we are. And again, this is semi-automatic. As you can see there's an orange button with like a lightning flash on it, that when the shock is required, that will flash and it will tell you press the orange shock button, which you would do, and it would deliver the shock. So those are the differences between semi-automatic and automatic. Give you an idea for what they're like. So the sort of things you need to test. The manufacturer, well, what comes with these devices? Let's take a look at that first of all. The first thing you need to do is to check, have you got a working device and have you got everything here? Well, the device itself will tell you if it's working or not. On all of them, there's either an audible and or a visual indication of the status. I'll plug the batteries in this one in a minute because that's faulty, and you'll get an idea for what the audible warning's like. This one is actually fully operational and there's a big green tick there. So if that were mounted on the wall, you might be walking past that every day on your way in and out of the building, to work, to the sports centre, and everybody can see the big green tick. If there was a big red cross, that might also be accompanied by an irritating beeping noise. It would suggest to anybody, even with no training, there's something wrong, in which case you'd investigate. So you need to know how these things work, so you also need a set of instructions. This should be either with the device or very nearby, because you need to know what the manufacturer says about checking it. You also need a first aid pack. Now, the first aid pack is nothing technical really. You need a pair of scissors to remove clothing, and you need a razor, which is that, or it might look like a more conventional razor for beards. And that's for removing body hair. That's because the electrodes which are inside the AED, they really need to stick to clean, dry skin. Hence why you need or you may need the razors. So those are the basics. You need the AED, you need the instruction book, scissors, razors. That's your very basic kit. So how do they work? Well, you open them up. Let's turn this on. And the device powers up, does a self-check. It's determined that There's a set of adult pads connected, and it says
Stay calm.
unit OK,
Check responsiveness. Call for help.
asking you to stay calm, check responsiveness,
airway.
call for help, open the airway, following these pictorial instructions around here.
Check breathing.
Is the patient breathing?
Attach defibrillation pads to patient's bare chest.
Okay, so when you get to that point, you need to open the pads and attach the pads. Again, I'm not going to show you how to attach the pads and where to do them. I'm an engineer, I'm not a medical person at all.
Attach defibrillation pads to patient's bare chest.
Let's just turn that off, otherwise that's going to be choking away. So let's look at the pads. Now these pads are in date. This AED is actually from our building here, so I'm not going to open these pads because they're sealed in a foil packet, and it's rather like food. Once that seal's broken, the pads will very quickly degrade and become useless. So it's important that when you're checking them, not only are the pads, do they need to be in date because they're dated, but also then the foil pack needs to be intact and secure. Why are they dated? Because they go off. They normally last about 3 years. Got a couple of different styles of pads here. Unfortunately, you'll find every style of defibrillator will have its own set of pads. Usually they're not interchangeable between them. Same with batteries. These are all powered by batteries. You can't recharge them in the mains like you would a mobile phone. You have to replace the battery pack. The battery pack actually charges an internal battery. So the batteries wear out, the pads wear out, and they're all unique. So you need to check the dates of these things. For the pads, this is a pack here, just to give you an idea of what they look like. So if you were to open them up, so what you would do is you would break the seal of the foil packet, you would remove the pads. There's a connector on one end which will either already be in the AED or you would need to plug it in. It'll be obvious where that goes, and it will be a one-way. There won't be any confusion at all as to which way around to put the connector. It'll only go one way or it won't matter. The pads will look rather like this, and you'll be encouraged to peel off the backing to reveal the sticky side. This really is very, very sticky. I perhaps maybe can't see that too well, but it's very, very sticky. Really wants to attach itself to my fingers there. So you can imagine that over a period of time, the sticky adhesive there that's on these pads will go off, and it will become less sticky and therefore less effective. So that's one reason. Another reason is also the electrodes. These are kind of interchanging names here. You can call them pads, you can also call them electrodes. If you're an engineer, you think of this in terms of an electrical circuit, and the electrodes are rather like electric contacts, and that's what the pads are doing. They're creating an electrical circuit between the body of the patient and this electrical device, hence why they're called electrodes. Let me give you an example of what they look like. These here have corroded. If I just peel that back, you see the change in colour there? There's a very sort of rusty brown orange tinge here compared to the rest of the pads as you go further away from there. And that's because this is the actual point where the wires are connected, and with corrosion, the corrosion's just started to leach into the sticky adhesive. And also this is no longer very sticky at all. It doesn't really want to stick to my fingers in the same way that the other one did. So there's two very good reasons there why the pads go out of date and why you have to change them when the expiry date lapses. So let's put those to one side. Now I'll mention the batteries. Got a couple of examples of batteries here. That battery is for this one. Let's plug that in. This is not a rechargeable battery. This is the battery pack. It comes charged. You can't recharge it. There's no charger that comes with it. Slots in, only goes one way. And then the device boots up, and it is a self-test. And it will tell you if it's okay or not during the self-test. While that's booting up, let's do this one. This is again, battery pack. It comes self-charged. There's no charging facility. You can't plug it into a USB connector or plug it into the mains at all. It's a one-way trip. It's a battery pack to charge the internal battery in the AED. It's the same way that all of these work. This is the electrical supply, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, while I've been talking, that's now beeping. That raises attention and will tell you that something's wrong. There's also the indicator there in the top corner is red, so there's an audible and a visual indicator that there's something wrong with this device. Let's put this one in.
Self-test.
Goes through a self-test, sometimes takes a few moments.
Not ready for use. Remove and reinsert battery to test.
Okay, so clearly that's an audible indicator to tell you it's not ready for use. It's going to carry on beeping there away quite irritatingly, and quite rightly so. Because when you want to use these devices, just take that battery out. When you want to use the devices, you really need to know that they're going to work. So it's absolutely critical that you do these. You follow the manufacturer's instructions. If they're saying you need to do daily checks or weekly or monthly checks, that you do those. And I would also suggest that you record it in some manner so that you've got evidence of that. It becomes more of a natural process if it's written down. So there's the pads you can check. There's the batteries you can check. You can turn the devices on, make sure they go through the self-check okay, make sure that you get the green indicators come on as they should. Take the battery out of that as well. Okay, so the devices are manufactured by experts in the field, or in this particular field, and they're made to some very, very stringent medical requirements, medical regulations and law. And what that means is that the devices are designed to self-test. So in other words, there's nothing that you can do, there's no covers for you to take off to put a multimeter on or check anything like that. These devices are absolutely designed to tell you if they're faulty. Now the only problem is that occasionally we found that the devices, they're not absolutely foolproof. There are devices around that will tell you they're okay, when in actual fact, when it comes to delivering a shock, they don't deliver a shock, which is a problem, as you can imagine. So there are limitations with the self tests, and for that reason, then periodically, maybe once a year, it would make sense to have the device inspected and tested independently with some specialist test equipment to absolutely validate that not only does it deliver a shock, but it delivers a shock of a reasonable value in terms of energy, and also that it doesn't deliver a shock in a condition where no shock's required. And those are the sort of tests that maybe the manufacturer would do, or that a specialist in this particular field would do for you, and validate that. They would present it, well, first of all, connect us to some test equipment to fool these devices into thinking that there was a real life trauma going on, and enforcing it into a condition where it prepares itself to deliver a shock. We can then analyse to say whether we can give it one fault condition where it says, yes, this needs a shock, and another one that says this shouldn't deliver a shock, and we can test both conditions. So that might be something you might want to think about to be absolutely certain that these things are working. So I hope that's been of use. There are two other movies to look at. One is a movie which shows you that fault condition I was talking about, where we've actually filmed one of these devices and where it doesn't deliver a shock, but it tells you that it has, and that it passes all its self-tests. So there's a movie that's worth a look because it actually shows you in real life what the situation is. And there's another movie as well, which you might care to take a look at, which is actually the testing, and that runs you through how we simulate these conditions using some specialist test equipment to force these devices to go, really put them through their paces and then measure that energy. So I'd recommend those two movies as a follow-on to this one. So I hope that's been of use, and I'll catch you next time.